so we can continue on with our meeting. We'll move right into the department reports, starting with code.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report covers the month of February for this year. Just some of the highlights from the report. There were 59 code inspections and a total of 55 permits written for that month. Revenue collected was just over $84,500. We had 7 new businesses, and this is the first. We had no closed businesses for that month. We also had permitting of the Walton Payroll Hospital, and project still ongoing with Burger King. We were receiving business license renewals, affidavits, and identifications, and we were receiving processing plans for review. The city marshal removed 13 signs from the roadway, wrote 94 repair cleanup orders, investigated 4 tampering and theft cases, wrote 3 citations, and represented the city in municipal court. Historic Preservation issued a COA at 116 Walton Street, and the request for a rezone, which has already been heard by you all and approved, at 707 South Broad Street was also in that month. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Any questions, Patrick? Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Electric and telecom.
Thank you, Mayor. The electric report is a little dated, so I've got some newer information for you for last month and some updated year-to-date numbers. We used a little over 15 million kilowatt hours last month, cost of $1,755.97, which 81% of that was fixed. The numbers there on residential are down 10%, which is to be expected with our mild weather. Commercial's up 4%. But the good news is our only industrial load, which is Leggett and Platt, is up 12%. In discussions with them, they are running as wide open as they can. And I would not be scared to say they're running 3 shifts. They might have to go do some expansion with their business and how well it's doing. That's great for the city and great for the utilities. Telecommunications stats, we are running about 1.3 gigabits at peak to the internet tie. We do have 10 gig of connectivity there, so that's not a concern. We're running about half on our Cogent link at right at 1 gig. Items of interest, we did 288 cable TV tickets between 310 and 321, an increase of 443% over the same time last year, and that was all due to the conversion. 95% of those were us going out and reprogramming people's TVs for free. I'd like to commend Logan's staff, CSRs, and my staff for handling that well. I'm going to discuss that a little bit more in detail at our item of action later on this evening. We started construction of the power line on Charlotte-Rowell Parkway. If you'll notice, the wood poles are being set. We are still having some issues with Transco on our concrete pole up toward the end. Our surveyor says there's a gap between Transco and the MEAG High Line. Transco's guy says there's not, so instead of arguing, I'm just going to put it on the MEAG right away. MEAG has a section of right of way that they own, and they've agreed to allow us to go on there. We're going to do that staking tomorrow. Our vegetation contractor has started to perform work. You'll see guys from Trees Unlimited. They were the low bid for electric cities. They handled that bid for the cities. They will be out and about controlling trees mostly. They've worked on South Broad, but they will be moving into the Green Acres area here in the next week or so. That is our biggest area of contention. We've been having some losses due to vegetation. LED light upgrade. We have got a little over 120 lights in from our provider, and they have started the backlog of fixing lights. And as soon as we get the backlog fixed, we will start changing more on main thoroughfare streets. I think they've got to finish up Madison and Church, and then they're going to move back over toward Spring and all. DOT seems to be letting us do what we need to do. They haven't complained. I've talked to the DOT guy. He said just changing one at a time, and he's happy. So that's what we're going to continue to do. And I'll take any questions you may have.
Any questions for Brian?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Finance.
All right, you've got a couple reports before you. I'll start off hitting some highlights here on the performance indicators. Under telephone calls, recently you all approved some additional help in the call center. Now, this report is ending for February, so that's before some of that help got installed down there. So we saw an increase of our abandoned calls up to 8.86%. And I don't know about March, since we had such a heavy call volume, but thereafter into April, we hope that this will decline significantly back into maybe a 2-3% range. Looking at our customer count for utilities, things are still heading in the right direction for electric, natural gas, internet customers, phone customers. We're still growing our customer load there. Moving into our utility extensions. So we've had a little bit of success here with that SSI disability extension policy that we rolled out a couple months ago. We've got 24 people on that. So that's helping us there and decreasing our extensions defaulted there. See that number is now declining. So hopefully that's doing some good in the community. We'll roll into the financial status report now. Page 1, you have the cash balances. Just to note that the general fund checking account has $1.6 million. That's anticipated to be relatively stable until about October. That's when we have to start drawing a little bit on that stabilization fund until our tax revenues come in. Everything else is pretty stable cash-wise. SPLOST is holding its own pretty well as well, about $2.5 million. Let's look at the general fund. Revenues and expenses, we should be at about 16.6%, and that's almost exactly where we are expense-wise. Revenues are a little under that, and that's primarily due to the taxes. We all know the timing of the taxes. But I do want to highlight one major area that we are seeing some good increases in is in the code licenses and permits. We've collected 102,000 of the 70,000 budgeted for the year already. So what that tells us is we're seeing a lot of growth, both commercial and residential, within the city. Patrick's crew is running wide open over there, but we are seeing some good revenues. Moving on to the combined utilities fund, everything is really right on budget for our different utility divisions. Natural gas revenues are about 20.5% above budget. That will lower as we go into the summer season. So that tells us we're kind of right where we ought to be as far as our revenues. But our expenses are being held down below budget, 13.44%. So all in all, utilities look pretty stable and right where they should be for this time of year. Solid waste, again, good story there. We're very balanced, 16% revenues. Expenses are just under that, so we're seeing a net surplus. We do have $127,000 in transfer station revenues billed that are over 30 days. We're going to keep an eye on that. I believe that that's mostly a timing issue. So hopefully we'll see that decline significantly for the March report. Other than that, I'll be happy to take any questions from you.
Okay, thank you, Logan. Fire department.
For the month of February, we ran a total of 188 calls, 8 of those calls being fire, 123 EMS, 3 of hazard conditions, 14 service calls, 34 good intent calls, and 6 fire alarm calls. We had 4 public relations events, had 320 hours of training, and gave out 217 smoke alarms to the citizens. Had 1 arson investigation. We provided mutual aid or automatic aid to Walton County 3 times, and they in return provided automatic aid to the city 3 times. The only other thing that I have is that this month we have 3 acquired structures that we're planning on doing a train burn up on North Broad. The projected date of the April 22nd or 23rd, and a rain date, the 29th or the 30th.
Any questions? Thank you. Police Department.
Thank you, Mayor. For the month of February, we had 3,069 calls for service. We received 1,550 calls to the Monroe Police Department, had 240 court cases. We participated in 516 training hours with our officers. We had 61 Part 1 crimes, had 150 Part 2 crimes. We ended up making 88 adult arrests and 9 juveniles. We participated in 265 area checks. We picked up approximately 800 pounds of trash with our community service. And we had, we participated in 2 of the community events, the Chocolate Walk and Teen Pride class, which is a 2-hour class that they teach to teenagers. The Pride class stands for the Parents Reducing Injuries and Driver Area. It addresses our teens' attitude, knowledge, and behavior before they start driving. In reference to the 3,069 calls you can scan down, I don't think you guys really want me going through each one of those calls. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have in regards to any of this.
Thank you, RV. Solid Waste.
Thank you, Mayor. Our report for February is pretty consistent. We were up a little bit on the residential side. The recycling was up about 41%, up to 130 tons for the month of February, and most of that was yard trim, limbs, and debris. It was up 117 tons. We picked up a little 4 tons of scrap tires. And pretty much the services are on schedule. Take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Danny. Streets and Transportation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is highlighting the report for the month of February. On our admin side, we rented out the community building 7 times. Our fleet maintenance division completed 102 work orders throughout various departments with fleet throughout the city. Our grounds crew, which is in full swing right now with the warmer weather and some rain that we've been getting in the green up, they're out cutting every day, but in the month of February, they do as much cutting, they spend more time picking up litter. Just over a ton of trash picked up throughout the city. Street division formed 7 asphalt patches, 8 road repairs, 2 driveway pipes replaced, and replaced 200 feet of curbing for the month. Continue to do some work, grading and landscaping and hydrant seeding at the airport. Moving into the sign and marking division, had 46 completed work orders there, with the bulk being some new signs being made. Building maintenance division completed 74 work orders throughout all public facilities in the city. And I'll be glad to entertain any questions regarding this report or anything else as far as that goes.
Thank you, Jeremiah. Water, sewer, gas, and stormwater. Rodney.
Thank you, Mayor. Water treatment side, we treated 62.9 million. Wastewater side, we treated 62.3 million. Water distribution, 57 work orders, 37 after-hour emergency calls, and installed 5 new services. Wastewater collection, we had 25 work orders with 14 after-hour emergency calls. Natural gas, so 52,330 MCF of gas, 33 work orders, 11 leak calls, installed 2 new services. Stormwater side, we had 8 work orders. We didn't have any emergency calls. We've got the pipe ditch and grate cleaning there. And then on the training center, we held 22 classes with 69 attended. That's all I've got. Answer any questions you may have.
I got a pretty big increase on training classes at the utility center. Is there a reason for that?
Well, we've added soil erosion, and so it's starting to pick up.
Good.
Thank you, Rodney. Completes our monthly department report. We're moving to committee information now, finance.
We don't have anything on the agenda this evening, Mayor.
Okay, airport. Mr. Purvis is out today, so we'll call Mr. Fussell. Fill us in on airport.
Mr. Mayor, this month the airport has pumped 1,758 gallons of fuel, which is substantial for the type of weather that we've been having. We're down to about 1,500 gallons left in the tank, so within the next week we anticipate ordering fuel again. Hopefully we'll get a good price on it regardless of our current price. We do have several other items in front of the council tonight, and Mr. Bailey has those.
All right, I think the first thing y'all have got is a requested approval of the purchase and installation of the airport's AWAS system. If you take a look at the paper in front of you, you've got a requested expense of $119,000. The city, however, is only responsible for $5,900 of that through the 95-5 loan or grant process that we get from federal and state funds. So just asking for the approval of that to be purchased and the installation to start for Barge Wagner.
Okay, need a motion for the airport committee to take that to council next week.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Adcock.
Second.
Second by Mr. Richardson, all in favor? Any opposed? We'll take that to the council next week. Next item.
Thank you, sir. The next item is the approval of the ALP layout plan. I didn't attach it with the request just because it's a pretty good size map. I actually got it if anyone would like to take a look at it. Mr. Fussell looked over it earlier with me today. I think everything was pretty much in order. The key to it is to remember that it's pretty much a moving thing that can grow or change as we move along and can be updated as needed. The motion would need to be for the approval to have it signed and actually submitted to the DOT as our plan for the airport going forward.
Okay, for the committee, I need a motion for the airport layout plan to be signed and sent to DOT.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Adcock.
Second.
Second by Mr. Garrett, all in favor? Any opposed? That item passes. Next item.
All right, number 3 is the contract approval from the Georgia DOT. If you'll notice, it shows a total project amount of $350,000 and a requested expense of $25,000. We're not actually requesting that expense. This is a combination of the 4 projects, being the AWAS system that you just voted to take to the council, the security fencing that was voted on, I believe, back in January, the fuel farm that's already in place, and the ALP and the DBE plans that we just, or the ALP plan that we just discussed. That's the $25,000 number is the total that it's going to cost us to basically put $350,000 worth of growth into our airport. So it's more of an update. At the same time, I need an approval to basically sign the contract to submit to the Georgia DOT for us to start being reimbursed on funds that we've expensed.
Need a motion for the construction contracts.
So moved.
Mr. Adcock.
Second.
Second by Mr. Richardson, all in favor? Any opposed? That passes. Next item.
All right, last one. The selection of a consultant. I know it was brought to your attention that every 5 years we have to reselect or go through the RFQ process to select consultants and engineers for our airport to continue to receive federal and state grant funds. And we put out an RFQ. We had 4 companies pick up the RFQ, 3 companies of which submitted their statement of qualifications. We had an evaluation process. 4 people participated, and we came back to the selection that Barge Wagner, Sumner, and Cannon were the most qualified. They had a great statement of qualifications. They're already well versed in our airport and have worked with us for many years. So we're asking to be able to basically put Barge, Wagner, Sumner, and Cannon under contract for the next 5 years to remain as our airport consultant and engineer.
And the airport board and the airport committee all in favor?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we met and voted on it.
Need a motion to retain the airport consultant, Barge, Wagner. Need a motion for
So
that.
moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Adcock, second by Mr. Garrett, all in favor? Any opposed? I will move that to full council next week.
All right. Thanks, sir.
Thanks, sir. That's all the airport. Moving to public works.
Mr. Mayor, you heard from a couple of department reports a few minutes ago about how much trash is being picked up and things going on with trash in the city. So we've got some initiatives coming up, and ask Mr. Smith if he can talk about that a little bit.
Thank you, Mr. Bradley. Yeah, the Great American Cleanup is scheduled for the April 18th through the 22nd. And we just reminding the citizens, to take advantage of the opportunity to bring just some spring cleaning, have cleanup. And this year, we're going to close out with a special event on Saturday. It's a community cleanup competition. And we're going to ask, if you don't mind, Brian Cressy, to come up and speak about what's going to be taking place.
Thank you, Mr. Smith, Council Mayor. Really appreciate what the city already does with the Great American Cleanup in conjunction with the Cities Week and Earth Day, providing a week of free trash drop-off as well as the tires. But in addition, we wanted to take it up a notch a little bit, and so on Saturday, and Mr. Smith has graciously agreed to open the transfer station on a day that's not normally open, but what we're going to do is we're going to have a competition, and the way to work is any team or organization or church that wants to be a part of it at 9 o'clock will gather here in the parking lot of City Hall and then send everyone out as a team to different areas of the city. Some people might have an area that they're already vested in that they want to go clean up, and then they will be responsible for collecting trash, tires, scrap metal, whatever they could find along the roadways there in those areas, and taking them to the transfer station. And each team has until noon, and as you know, when you go, you get a ticket with your weight on it. And the team that comes back at 12 with the most weight ticketed will win a $250 donation to their organization or team or church group. And so want to foster some community spirit and rally the troops a bit. And so any way you can spread the word out. I know a lot of the churches are hoping to get involved and as a potential fundraiser for their groups. And then also we will also be offering a $100 Downtown Dollars prize for the team with the most team spirit. So costumes, uniforms, whatever might win that prize is $100 would go for Downtown Dollars. And so 9 o'clock here on that Saturday, April 23rd until noon, and then we'll have a cookout with just some hot dogs and chips that Grace Monroe will be providing at noon for the teams that come back as part of that weigh-in. So excited about that. I think it'll be a good thing for the city, and just would ask that anyone that you know of that might be interested, schools, groups, churches that would want to get a team, get them up here at 9 o'clock on Saturday, April 23rd. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. I think we all realize that there's work to be done in cleaning up trash sometimes. So I would encourage our media representatives that are here tonight to meet with Mr. Crosby to get details so we can get more people involved with this as we go. Our next item on the agenda is the purchase of a pickup truck, and I'll ask Mr. Steele if he'll discuss this one.
Thank you, Mr. Bradley. Tonight we're seeking an approval to purchase a F-150 fire new proposed right-of-way crew. This is the crew that goes out and cuts the entire right-of-way throughout the city. Those jobs will be hopefully filled in the month of May, and as we stand right now, there's not a vehicle to put them in. So for that crew to be efficient, we need to provide a vehicle as well as their tools, which we've already started working on that. But tonight I'm seeking approval of the primary purchase of the vehicle, the truck, from Courtesy Ford, which was the low bid at $28,630. This is a CIP budgeted item. We funded through SPOS. Other than that, I'll be glad to take any questions regarding the truck itself or the need for it or anything regarding it.
See, I know that last fall, the council discussed at length, I think, the necessity of trying to keep the right-of-ways cut and looking good and approve some money in the budget. So my understanding is you're going to have to hire
We are.
a few more people to this. And when do you expect all this to get underway?
The positions are funded effective May 1, correct? Hopefully, somewhere around that date, those positions will be filled. And typically, if this gets pushed through after next week, the truck hopefully can be here about the same time the employees can be here. They can hit the ground running with an established route of what we're going to cut and clean up and pick up throughout the city.
And once this is underway, how often do you think the right-of-ways will be cut?
My initial plan is to cut it no less than what I would have my grass cut once every other week. I think is a very attainable goal. That's what we're going to strive for to start with.
Any
And
questions?
that also includes picking up a little bit of the state routes, coming in and out of town, trying to keep those maintained a little bit more than what the DOT would typically do.
Any questions from any committee members? Do I hear a motion to approve this purchase of the pickup?
So moved. Second.
Okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Mayor, we will bring this to the council next week for
Okay.
approval. That's all we have.
Thank you. Utilities.
Thank you, Mayor. Requesting a purchase of a transformer, Mr.
Yes, sir,
Thompson.
Mr. Little. As Patrick said the other day, a little earlier, the old hospital is being changed into a new hospital. And we need a transformer to serve that and actually have one that's there. The transformer that was on location there was damaged by vandals and has started its repair. It should be back soon. But once it gets back and goes into service there at the hospital, we will not have a spare transformer for that location or for Walton Press. Those are the two sites that we have a 1500 kVA 277-480 transformer. So we're asking you to allow us to purchase a 1500 kVA 277-480 pad mount for the price of $16,825 from Gresco. I'll take any questions you may have. These things take anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks to get, so that's why we're moving forward with it now. The one at we have a temporary transformer, a smaller transformer in place at the old hospital so they can do their construction with, and we will not place the new 1500 in place there until we get this one in if you approve it for us to purchase it.
So we have one to use at the
We have the one
hospital
we're
site,
getting repaired.
and this one will be the reserve.
This will be the reserve, yes. And the only reason you keep one in reserve is because these larger transformers, depending on the time of year, if the economy really gets going, it can take 6 months to get one. And so you can't have a business without power for 6 months.
Are there any other questions from Mr. Thompson? Is there a motion to approve the purchase of this transformer?
I'll make the motion that we recommend to full council the purchase of the transformer for $16,825, purchasing from Gresco.
We got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Got a motion, second. All those on committee in favor say aye.
Aye.
We will recommend that to full council.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor, I think that's all we have tonight.
Thank you. Public safety, you have anything?
No, sir.
Economic development. Safety.
Good evening. I have a couple things for you. One is an update on our participation in the Georgia Initiative for Community Housing, or the GIC team. We'll say GIC a lot until we all know what we're talking about. But the cleanup day, this event is actually the first project that has come from that local housing team. They want to do a number of initiatives to kind of engage neighbors, engage people in looking at their neighborhoods, looking at their streets, and taking care of it. So we're trying to do this as a first, and wanted to line it up with the activities we already had going on with the Great American Cleanup and Georgia Cities Week. So this is the first initiative. As a team, we're working on our branding and our mission statement, kind of our taglines and mottos, and that's coming together well. We are meeting monthly as a team, and I'll be bringing updates to you monthly. I'm excited about where we're heading, working really closely with Patrice, and she's going to be helping us with some press releases and getting the word out in the community about what exactly this housing team is and some of the projects that we hope to accomplish over the next 3 years as we begin this process of thinking strategically about our housing. Connected to that is the CHIP grant, which is the home improvement program through DCA. We did submit the application. Everything got in a timely manner. I think we have a strong application, and hopefully they'll announce this month which communities will be awarded funding. It doesn't mean they release the funds, but they'll make the announcement hopefully within the month. And if we have that, that'll become a tool that we can use to rehabilitate owner-occupied homes of low-income citizens. So we're excited about having that potentially. Let me look back to my list here. Also, you may have noticed the new planters that are downtown. They're larger boxes, and we're connecting those to our current sprinkler system that's downtown. We've had an issue with maintaining our planters because it's hard to keep plants alive in the smaller planters, and we've been watering them by hand for a number of years. And so this is an effort. DDA is paying for this through sponsorship and funds that they raised last year, so they'll be using those additional funds to pay for the planters and tie them into the current watering system so that we can have plants for longer and reduce the labor involved in maintaining them. So you'll see those will be completed hopefully by the end of the week and get plants in them probably next week. And also, if you see planting going on, work in Childers Park, that's a project in partnership with MEAG to do some screening vegetation and some cleanup in Childers Park around the substation. And so that's going to be a partnership of MEAG will pay for a portion, utilities will pay for a portion, and then DDA funds will pay for a portion as well. But that should make that park even more beautiful and enjoyable for our residents and visitors. So we're very excited to see those changes coming. And the last thing I wanted to mention is that a couple weeks ago we had our Georgia Downtown Conference, and Monroe brought home 2 awards this year again. So we're very excited about that, and we'll be doing a special presentation at next week's council meeting to Steve and Susan Brown for their award as Volunteer of the Year. And we also won an award for excellence in promotions for the events we do and the community event grant program that we set up. So we're thrilled that to be recognized at the state level by other downtowns and the Georgia Downtown Association. So thank you for your support that made that possible. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have about these. Great. Thank you.
All right, items of discussion coming up next week. The public hearing we'll have is going to be a rezone 1035 East Spring Street. Patrick, we'll go on.
Sir, this first item is, as you said, 1035 East Spring Street. Mr. Lee Gear has applied for a rezone from B1 to R1 on that property. Right now, the recommendation from the Planning Commission is for denial, as well as the Code Department's recommendation is also to deny the request. If you've got any questions on that one, I'll be glad to try and answer them.
Would you, I'm sorry, would you just explain why the recommendation for denial?
Well, basically, it's a commercial corridor, and that it exists right now as a commercial zoning. All the property along that corridor is commercial zoning. Future land use plan shows it as remaining commercial, and going forward as that corridor redevelops over time. So that's basically just to keep it consistent, and the fact that I don't believe that the Planning Commission agreed that it was a function of planning and zoning to rezone, just in order to accommodate a reduction in a tax bill.
How long has it been zoned commercial?
Forever. Since our zoning has been in existence, as far as I know.
This is not the same piece that we have talked about before.
Well, this was on the agenda previously with the Planning Commission, and they recommended to deny at that time as well. And with the advice and counsel of Matthew Chancey, talking to Ms. Gear, she withdrew it from consideration before it came to you all the first time, pursuant to getting some appraisals done. And I don't know that you hadn't met with any success as far as I know on that. I did too want to mention that I spoke with Derry Boyd yesterday, trying to find out if there's any kind of relief that we could pursue on her behalf as far as homestead exemptions or anything like that that could assist in reducing her tax bill. And he basically told me that an executor of an estate living in the property is not necessarily the person who could apply for homestead exemption. So that was an avenue I looked into, but it's not something that they will do. So he told me that yesterday. Any other questions?
What's the problem with just rezoning from commercial back to residential?
I don't know that there's any particular problem. It's just, like I said, I don't believe that the Planning Commission thinks it's a function of the planning and zoning activities to do that, and my recommendation was the same.
Did any of y'all go out there and actually take a look at the property?
I've been out there numerous times over the 14 years I've been with the city.
Because I know last Friday you told me the property only had one driveway.
No, it has her driveway and another driveway that accesses another piece of property that's on the back that would require an access easement. And actually, in our conversation last Friday, I appreciate your time. You spurred some thought on the matter, and I was thinking that maybe since it's an existing non-conforming use, if we do rezone it, then it would have to comply with the zoning regulations of that zoning classification, which may cause some more difficulties. I haven't had time to confer with the city council since last Friday, but that's
so next week,
the lawyers.
Next week we'll hear the property owner's request. Right?
Yeah, and they can advise us on that as soon as. I think Paul's out of town this week, and I haven't had time to speak with Russell. But as soon as I get the opportunity, I'll look into that as well, just in case we don't cause more problems than already exist by doing that, if you decided to do it against the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Code Office.
So if we do this, does the petitioner realize that they're going to have another problem if it gets rezoned the way they want it rezoned?
Well, now she does. I only mentioned it to Norman because, again, our conversation spurred the thought, and I haven't had time to look into it. And that's not something that will certainly happen. It's potential, and I wanted to talk to Paul or Russell and see if that might actually be the case.
I thought when this came up before that it was at the property owner's request that it was rezoned to commercial from residential. Sometime like that.
Well, as far as I can tell, and as far as Natalie's been able to find too in her research, it's been commercial zoning for 50 some odd years, 53 years.
My concern would be is if the house is zoned residential, for what reason would we have to keep the property commercial when the house is zoned residential?
The property is the only thing that has zoning, and the zoning is commercial.
So you're saying the house is not zoned residential?
The houses are assessed as residential to the best of my understanding, but
zoning is all commercial.
The zoning is B1.
Yeah, it's
yes, sir.
So let me ask you this, do you think we're trying to make something out of nothing?
I really don't understand the question.
When I asked you what issues do you have with rezoning, and what y'all were telling me was there's not much different in what you're paying as far as residential or commercial. And I made the statement if there's not much of a difference, why not rezone it back to residential as opposed to trying to leave it commercial?
Well, as I previously stated, it's been B1 for all that time. It's in a commercial corridor, which is a gateway into the community that's zoned commercial pretty much in its entirety. And it's also on the future land use plan to remain commercial. Those are the things that I use, the criteria that I use to make my recommendation. So that's my recommendation.
And do you realize on that side of town ain't nothing happened in how many years?
Well, I don't know. The bridge opened up. It's a school that took over the abandoned elementary school on Blaine Street. We had a refacing of the Popeyes over there. We also had a new church move in, where our religious organization over there, in the old Dollar General. We also had a new multi-million-dollar building built by Dollar General on that corridor. So I don't really understand why you'd say nothing's happening over there.
Now, which one's actually paying taxes? You spoke about the Muslim group going in that circle around behind the old Piggly Wiggly.
Hammond Drive.
Which is not paying, they should be tax exempt, if I'm not mistaken.
They asserted that they were a tax exempt organization, but they have not proved it or brought any documentation to us at this point.
Have they paid any tax?
Oh, no, I don't work for the tax commissioner.
You work for the city of Monroe.
Yes, but I don't work for the tax commissioner. I don't know if they pay taxes or not.
You just finished saying you talked to the tax commissioner about the property.
I didn't ask him that question. I asked him a specific question about homestead exemption, trying to get a break from Ms. Gear.
And how long had it been going on?
How long's what
So
been
Ms.
going
Gear
on?
been actually trying to get this property rezoned, from when to when? Because if I'm not mistaken, this started sometime back in August.
Yeah, I think you're
Or
correct.
before.
Yeah, and she withdrew it at the advice and counsel of Mr. Chansey at the time, pursuant to getting it appraised, which to my knowledge still hasn't happened and still hasn't been provided.
Do you know why Mr. Chancellor actually told her to redraw it and actually to resubmit it, and he would actually waive the fee once she resubmitted it?
I have no idea what his reasoning was, but we did do exactly what he promised her.
So from your understanding, just because everything on that commercial, that everything should stay commercial?
That's my understanding, yes, sir.
Any other questions on this property here? Okay, next one is a rezone annexation for 0 Cognizant Road.
Yes, sir. This is a application by Reliant Homes that basically is annexing a 2-acre tract that will connect a parcel that he owns already, that's already in the city, to a parcel he wishes to annex in its entirety, which is the next piece up for consideration. This is just basically the minimum tract that would be required to connect it and make it adjacent to the city property and bring it into the city limits. It's, like I said, it's R1 county now. He's requesting it to be R1 city, and the applicant's name is Selman Bridges Estates, LLC. If you have any questions on this one, I'll be glad to answer them.
Now, what reason do you recommend that approval?
In the interest of development of the city, they're trying to get the parcel that has 192 acres annexed into the city so that they can develop a 300-home community.
So what you saying, if it don't benefit the city, then there's no reason for a change?
You said that, sir. I'm saying that what I'm telling you is the development of that piece of property in the manner that they'd like to do it couldn't be accomplished unless they annex this small portion into the city and make it contiguous and bring it into the city limits.
Any other questions on this one? Okay. Item C is a rezone annexation for 0 Michael Etchison Road.
Excuse me. All right. This is the annexation that the previous one discussed would make contiguous to the city and allow it to be brought into the city limits to be developed. And they're looking to rezone that pursuant to annexation as a PRD, which is a planned residential development. And they will be here next week to discuss this and answer any questions that you might have, but they have a pretty thorough package there that explains the project and I believe has the plans for the development. Again, like I said, let me get back to the portion. I believe it's 192 acres plus or minus 192.15 for an active adult community.
Any questions on this one? Okay. Item number 2 is application for spirituous liquor and beer and wine on premises consumption, salamanders. Item number 3 is the appointment of the Historic Preservation Commission, and I believe that John Lucas.
Yeah.
He wants to be reappointed, so week. And item number 4 is the 2016 concert series contracts for DDA. So you want to say something?
You have them all there before you. The one thing that we've gotten in addition to these is we had an amendment to the performance agreement for the first band, which is the Retro Vertigo. It's an 80s band, that if, in the event that they're rained out, they have agreed to find another date in the 2016 series, and if they can't find a date for 2016, they'll agree to perform in 2017 at half the price. So basically, if we lose that concert or any of these concerts due to rain, we don't lose all of the money that we have committed to pay to these concerts. And we pay for this, just to remind everyone, through the sponsorship that we raise from our generous businesses and individuals. And the sponsorship, at this point, we have $19,500 committed. We're still in the process of raising sponsorship, and we feel confident we'll be able to cover this as well as the other events that we pay for this year for the city. Be happy to answer any questions you may have about the contracts. Great. Thank you.
Are you going to read this next one?
Yes, I can. I'll grab it.
This next two items require an action. Item number 1 is a resolution for the CDBG redevelopment fund grant for the Monroe livery stables.
Yes, and this is the next. This is just the next resolution needed to continue moving forward in this project. We brought it before you initially a while ago in 2015 to redevelop it. So I'll read this resolution. City of Monroe Redevelopment Fund Grant Resolution, whereas the Georgia Department of Community Affairs has established a redevelopment fund program under the Department of Community Affairs, and whereas there exists in the City of Monroe a need to assist the Downtown Development Authority of the City of Monroe with funds to renovate an old livery stable building in the city limits of Monroe, now therefore be it resolved by the Mayor and Council that the City supports the RDF loan application for funds to assist Mountain Creek Enterprises Incorporated with the stabilization, renovation, and rehabilitation of the Monroe livery stable. The City will also commit to audits valued at $1,000. Loan proceeds will establish the City's revolving loan fund for future economic development projects. Be it further resolved that the Mayor, Greg Thompson, is authorized and directed to act as the official representative of the Monroe City Council to act in connection with the application, execute all required application documents, to be responsible for compliance with applicable state and federal requirements of the program, and to provide such additional information as may be required. Be it further resolved that the City commits to waiving all building permit and inspection fees to Mountain Creek Enterprises Incorporated for occupancy to the renovated Monroe livery stable. Be it further resolved that the City has adopted the most recent citizen participation plan of the Georgia Department of Community Affairs to ensure public involvement in the CDBG process. Be it further resolved that the Mayor is authorized to enter an agreement for grant administration services relating to the application and subsequent grant, if funded, and to execute all grant award documents on behalf of the City if the grant is funded. Be it further resolved that the City hereby acknowledges that the proposed project is subject to the requirements of Section 3 of the Housing and Urban Development Act of 1968 as amended 12 U.S.C. 170 LU Section 3, and in accordance with the DCA Section 3 compliance plan will, to the greatest extent feasible, comply with all Section 3 requirements. Be it further resolved that the City hereby acknowledges that the proposed project is subject to the requirements of the Title 8 of the Civil Rights Act of 1968, Fair Housing Act as amended, Section 104B2 of the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974 as amended, and Section 105B3 of the National Affordable Housing Act of 1990, NAHA. The City hereby commits to affirmatively furthering fair housing to the greatest extent feasible. Be it further resolved that the City hereby acknowledges that the proposed project is subject to the requirements of Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 as amended, Title 2 of the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, ADA, and the Architectural Barriers Act of 1968. The City hereby commits to comply with all Section 504 requirements to the greatest extent feasible. Be it further resolved that this project is in conformance with the City's comprehensive plan. Be it further resolved that the activities proposed in the City's redevelopment fund program application are not inconsistent with the City's service delivery strategy. Be it further resolved that a true and dedicated commitment has been made to the project for successful completion and to assist in redevelopment of the Monroe Livery Stable in Monroe, Georgia. Be it resolved this 5th day of April 2016.
All right, any questions?
Move approval of the resolution.
I have a motion by Mr. Pratt.
Second.
Second by Mr. Garrett. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That resolution passes. Item number 2 is the approval of the DVR box pricing. I'm sure you want to take that.
First off, I want to do a little update where we're at and how we got here. Over the past 6-8 months, we've discussed this transition, and I just want to clarify why we had to do the transition. We transitioned, I guess that's a word, to a mostly digital system for several reasons. One was contractual requirements by our programmers. Our programmers are people like ESPN, ABC, NBC. Required us to add more channels than we had space for in the system. So the only way to do that is compress your system and put it on the digital. Well, Comcast and Charter did these same projects about 6 or 7 years ago, and the way they went about it was to require every TV to have a box, some type of box, whether it's a DVR box, a converter box of some sort. Well, those boxes have a cost associated with them, a monthly cost to the customer. And we looked at it in our planning where we wanted to make the cost to our customer as low on a monthly recurring cost as possible. You should look at taking Comcast pricing and you take a person that's got 4 TVs. If we had went by the box way, they would have had an increase of almost 100% on their bill, and that just wasn't acceptable. Now, I will admit, I made a misjudgment or a misestimate on how many tube TVs were still, or older TVs were still in the system, and that there are a couple of manufacturers, Element being one of them, that still creates a TV that does not have a quantum tuner, only has analog tuners. So, after kicking around several solutions, we came up with this. Our digital service with a DVR box has a cost with programming. And the programming is what pays for the majority of the box. We talked to our provider that turns these boxes on, provisions these boxes for us, and the provider of the programming, and they agreed to remove the programming from the stream. We turned several on. We had actually, the day we figured it out, there was 2 customers, an older gentleman and a young lady in the office, asking for a solution. And I said, y'all just hold tight and give me your information. And we took their information, we turned on 2 boxes, and sent them to their homes. We wanted a real-life test of how it would work. And they actually work. What you get out of this as a value added is the DVR, the ability to record programming, and the interactive preview guide. Any of y'all have ever had Dish Network, DirecTV, Comcast, Charter, there's an interactive, or our digital service, there's an interactive preview guide that allows you to search out 2 or 3 days in advance and record programming and that kind of stuff. So what we're asking tonight is for you to give us another tool in our pouch to solve people's problems, which is give them this DVR converter box for $10 a month, and we will let people try them for a trial period of 2 weeks. We'll put it in their home. If they like it, they can keep it. If not, they can return it to us. As long as the box is not damaged, no harm, no foul. And we will try to find another solution. And I'll take any questions you may have.
Brian, explain again the part of the DVR without programming. What does that really mean?
What that really means is, if you have our digital service, you're aware that everything above 200 is extra programming in that service. There are different, there's about 50 or 60 extra channels that we have to pay for that programming. Well, there's a charge, there's an upcharge to the customer. What we've worked out with our provisioning company is the ability to remove that from the box, so there is no extra programming cost to the customer. Now, we've got a cost in the box. We've got to keep that box up. We've got to make sure it works. We've also got to pay our provisioning company and a company called Rovi that does the guide for us every month for that box to be up and running.
Me and you talked Friday a little bit about this.
Yes. And I appreciate your idea on the 2-week deal for the trial.
What we need to look into something about the people that actually can't afford to buy new TVs, and for some reason we just haven't got it worked out that they can actually get all their channels. And I know the boxes haven't come in yet.
The free boxes that we did get that didn't come in, all of them didn't come in on time. They do that model, and it's really the only model that I can get at any point, does not take in the analog version of our system. I've been in discussions with L&J Telephone, which is another company our size that does this, and with a company down in the South, a smaller company that does this. We're going to try to find a solution for them, a cheaper solution. We're still looking for that. We left those analogs on there knowing that some people, if it's just a bedroom TV, if it's something that's a tube TV, they can get some channels until we can figure out that solution. The big problem is those TVs are just, they're 12 years out of life cycle. I know they last a long time. I've actually got one in my basement. And it's hooked to a box I pay DirecTV for. They're out there, they're working. We're going to keep working and trying to figure out a solution for those people.
Let me ask you this. This one came across my mind Friday when we were talking. Is there a way that you were telling me about some boxes that you purchased 3 or 4 years back?
That's the ones we're using, these.
Is there a way that the people that's actually waiting on the boxes can actually get that service until the boxes actually come in? Or what would the cost?
I think that 2-week trial period will be a time frame where those other boxes will come in and we'll take care of that. And if the other box, I'll tell them if they want to return the box, again, if the box is not damaged, no harm, no foul, I think we'll be good then.
So how soon would that start taking place?
Tomorrow, if y'all approve it.
Gotcha.
It'll take, we've got a backlog of about 25 people. And it takes time. These things have to be what we call burned in. When a customer comes in and wants it, we'll contact them. They don't have to come in. We'll contact them. They'll say yes or no. Once they say yes, we will program that box. And it takes a period of about 6 hours to burn that box in. Because burning the box in basically is putting that customer's, all their data on the box, what they're supposed to get. We got to make sure it works, make sure all this stuff works out, and then we'll deliver the box to them. So it's going to take me a few days to get this backlog out. If y'all approve it tonight, that's why I wanted it on the agenda for action tonight, not have to wait another week. We'll start tomorrow.
So I just want to understand, they're not required to purchase this $10 for the box. Only if
Only if
I
they
want
decide
to
to
know
keep the service.
they got the option.
Only if they decide to keep the service.
Gotcha. Okay.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll need a motion.
Move to approve the pricing structure on the DVR digital converter box.
Have a motion by Mr. Little. Second. Second by Mr. Bradley. All in favor? Any opposed? That passes.
Thank you.
And with no other business, we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Adcock, all in favor? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much. Remind y'all, next week we will have an executive session.